Hello once again, we are Brain Hack Studio, and today we'll be looking on the tutorial of how creating a TV studio that you can use in your OBS studio or any other project, but specifically this is another episode which is related to modeling movie assets. If you have that idea or that dream of creating a movie, I will show you step by step how you can model different assets. So here today we are going to start with a cube. So by having your very introductory or the cube that we see at the very beginning of the software, you start by resizing it on the x-axis so that can create something like a wall. Yeah, a wall that we see in our houses. So also you adjust it until to the level of perfection that you want. I try to make it bigger because today we'll be creating something very stunning. So move it to the Z, and so now you have the background of your studio. So now we are going to move quickly and add the cylinder. Yeah, because cylinder can create a very amazing that kind of table that we see in the different studios, and then move it to the x-axis so that it can come in the front. Try to rescale it, and now you will see that you have something which is very stunning. Move it to the Z so that it can land on the floor. But before we proceed with this table, let's introduce or add the plane so that you can know where to put this setup. And now we have the floor or the plane as the software calls it. So now moving quickly to this cylinder. Yeah, you click on tab so that you can edit different vertices of this table, and you need to use the loop cut so that you can add the one in the middle, and after adding that one you don't need to add anything else. So you move back and click tab again and tab again so that you can rescale this new added loop, and you have to make it smaller like this, and you see that your table is getting some creative shape. And then after creating this shape, then you come back and add and switch to the normal mode. And also you can, if you want, you can add another mesh, but which is a cylinder, and this one won't be that big, so we need to scale it to the Z basis, and then move it to the X, and then upward Z, GZ, then scale it on the Z basis to make it look so small, and then scale it also. So in order to make sure that you are having perfect geometries of these things that you are doing, you need to switch to the view or the upper view in your scene so that you can be able to see whether it is meeting the level of perfection that you expect. Yeah, now you can see that your asset is getting somewhat creative. So you can copy this RTD or double and specify the movement that you will be doing. Then we press GZ, move it upward like this, and I will be scaling it small or a little bit smaller. Yeah, and you see that it is kinda creative. And then you can double this one again, Alt D or Alt double, you can memorize it like that, and then move it by GZ, move it a bit upward so that you can increase the size by pressing G. So now you can see that we are having something which is kind of creative and tuning to look at GZ so that I can put this one attach, so that I can attach them. So now this is kind of complex, but if you like you can add another cylinder. Let's double this one. You will see that when it comes to shading, the more you add many meshes, it will be helpful to make your asset look more stunning or creative. Jesus, yeah. And now the table is kind of finished. Or if you like, you can add a cube, or even a torus. Let's add a torus today, and then GX. So as you can scale the Z, and then you scale the entire object, and you will have it looking like this. So right click, you can shade it smooth, shade every mesh smooth, shade smooth. And also come to the cylinders that we entered here and shade them smooth. So here we have something which looks more smooth than the one we had before, and this will increase the beauty of our object. So we are done with the table, and you have a background or basic background. If you want, you can add also a creative kind of chair or a sofa, and today we'll be achieving this using the cube, because when it comes to creativity and fashion stuffs, you don't need to do something which is very geometric or very complex so that to impress people. Yes, you can do anything you like. So today we are being creative. So here you move GY, yeah, GY, not GX. So you need to switch to the viewpoint so that you can. Suppose this is a studio where we will have one presenter without any guest. So here it is the logic that we'll be using. Then we are done with the chair. What is remaining is only the squaring GZ, I know, SZ, and get it kind of smaller on the X and on the Y axis. GY, GX. It's kind of geometrical. So now we can add modifiers so that you ensure that your cube is going to turn into kind of a chair that a person can sit on. So here we will use the bevel. By using the bevel, you can increase the can reduce it to the segments and introduce as many as possible segments, but to avoid having our PC getting stuck, we need to use few of them. But if you have powerful one, you can use this. Can use higher number of the segments. So now we have our finished table and chair. So now let's move to the studio. And to edit this, we use the tab button on the keyboard and add the loop cut. Add loop cut like this. Oh, yeah. Those are the loop cuts that we'll be adding in our tutorial. And we are going to use them. So move back. Also, you can come back on them, but we need to switch to the viewpoint shading, which is a wire view, so that you can be able to select the entire loops to make something which is geometrical. So let's starting by this loop. In order to ensure that we are making something very geometrical, we select two opposite loops. So you need to click Ctrl Shift and then select the other loop. But here it is not, yeah. Then Shift, select another loop here. And then you press G and you be moving them on the X like this. We want to create something which is kinda curved, Turn back to the other loops, select them, Shift, selected the one on the opposite side, and then GX. Then select the rest except the next ones, and then GX. Here we have something like a curve. So we need to switch back to the solid shading view, and now we see that we have kind of the background which looks more stunning. So when you look at the background of most of the studios, you see that you have big images or pictures that are on the background. So that is not going to be a very big deal, and it's simple to apply. So we need to add an image. Yeah, we need to add an image and call it a background image. Yeah, moving to the place where I saved it. That's kinda going to take a very long period of time. But let's take, for example, this one of beach and containing some clouds. And then move it on the x-axis. Oh. Where is the image? This is it is here at the back as but when you are entering an image, you need to make sure that is not an empty. Here I inserted a picture, but it was an empty. So here we need to add a correct picture which is not empty. So moving to the download, you can go and find the one called Alpines Mountains. Let's add the Eiffel Tower, and then GZ. Yeah, see that right now we have our image. And in order to make sure that it is looking perfect, we need to rotate it. And to rotate it easily, you click R and then specify that it will be on Z. Then after rotating it to the Z, then move it, rotate it again on the Y basis or Y axis. To ensure that it is looking very perfect. And then GZ to fix it downwards. So GX to move it forward. You see? Now we have our image in the scenes, so we need first of all to adjust or to edit these setups that we have here through shadings. So now we move to the shading view of this image. Yeah, but because this image is overloading our software, we need to remove it a bit and insert it later after having everything perfect. Need to delete it a bit so that we can edit our mesh freely. So we start by the chair, and to make this one look stunning, we need to add texture. Base color will be big texture or checker texture. Yeah, we need to use the checker texture. We see now it is kind of getting more creative, and increase the scale a bit. And then on the colors, you can switch them if you like, but they will be using green and yellow, for example. Yeah, the yellowish one. You can see that is getting kinda fashion. So we will change this main root of the table into a metal as we add new shade. Metallic character, we need to increase it to the maximum possible, and the roughness, try to reduce it. Like this. So here we will be adding an emission. The base color, or instead of using principal BSDF, we'll be using emission. Yeah, but for this to avoid having the same impact on other objects, we need to make sure that the shader that we are using here is not having impact on others. And to make sure that one is working, we need to switch to the shading tab. It's kinda slow, but have to make those materials independent. Can edit here simply and change it to the green color. And this one we have like glossy BCDF, and we are going to make color instead of absorption we will be having on the base color we will be having noise texture. And you can increase the scale of the noise. Make it look kinda stunning. So about the plane of the floor, we'll be using the checker texture also in order to create a realistic floor. And the wall should be kind of metallic. With flatness which is increased, create something like a mirror. Instead of using any other kind of the textures or colors, we'll be using image texture as the main color, and we add the other picture of Tour d'Eiffel. Or even use this one. So you need to adjust the nature of this image so that to make it look very realistic. So this is the first texture that we need to have and we'll be using, and then we add another plane mesh which is plane, rotate it to the 90 degrees on the X, no, on the Y, and then add new object to color it so that you can add an image texture and add new image on that mesh. So here you can choose any other kind of picture that you like. Let's search the Tower of Eiffel, yeah, Tour d'Eiffel, like this one, and then move it to GZ, rotate it to the X, rotate it 90 degrees, and then scale it G, Y, so that to increase the width of this, yeah, the SY, to increase the size of this picture, GZ, and then bring it to the front, GX. You need to adjust the size to the extent that you will like. Scale it up a bit. Now you have your background done. So don't mind about the behind this background because there are not hidden background always. And here what is next now is to adjust the color here on the floor to meet the ones that you have on the background. Here you can use the eyedropper like this on the first color, and the second one also you need to find one which is kinda black, and you find it here. And now you see that is matching what with what we have in the background. So moving to the table, also you need to kind of adjustments. We don't need emissions here, but we can use principal BSDF and try to change color to realistic one using an eyedropper, and select this one. Moving to the body of the table, we also need to adjust the color, and you can make it like this, and even the noise that you have here. So now we can regulate the position of the camera that to render this image. Switch to the camera view by clicking on the 0 button, and then here we try to move it, and the camera also can be moved like other objects using the X, the Y's, and the Z's. Rotate to the Z axis. Rotate again to the Y axis. Because we'll be setting it on the lower side of our scene that we have, then GZ. It is very hard to choose the precise location of the camera. It is taking a lot of time, but you need to make sure that to find the right one. So after finding the correct position of our camera, you can see that the background is so small, so you need to adjust it, and to adjust this is very simple. You select the two materials that you have used and then click on S so that you can increase their size. If you want to capture the entire studio, you can move the camera backward a little bit, and then also remember to adjust the size of the background, because this helps you to have stunning studio. So now we have to switch to the render view, but don't need to do it before we add the light. You have to switch to the render view to see whether the light is enough. And now you can see that the studio is not that having enough light to make it look stunning, so you need to adjust the power of this lamp. You can scale it a bit up. Let's for example put the power on 5000 watts and turn back to our studio. And now this is what you have, but you see that you are having shadows in your scene, which is not that professional. We need to switch to the location of the light so that you can have the shadows disappearing. Still have something to do on the position of the camera, because this is the one which determines the beauty of the scene that you are using. So we have to rotate it a bit. So at this moment you can add as many as meshes as you like, depending on your ways or your emotions. But here what we have is Tuning Studio that you have modded, which is another kind of the movie assets that you can use. So we are going to render this one, which is it. So move to the rendering tab here. Instead of using the if, you're going to use cycles. And this is what happens when you switch to the rendering as cycles, and you see that is looking more stunning. So we can start rendering, and here we need to render image instead of animation. So kinda exciting to wait for the complete picture, but we are having 2 minutes to wait and see how it is going to look like. But before we can wait for the rendering, getting so it render every pixel by pixel, so we need to wait and see what is going to be our picture. So because this is going to take us much of our time, so we need to save time and end our tutorial by here. So thank you for watching. The finished picture, you will see it as cover, or if you want it, you can find me on my Instagram account, brendahack.studio.h.s.live official, and there you can see the entire project or the finished project that we are producing today. So thank you for watching. Subscribe for upcoming tutorials. We are modeling a lot of movie assets, and we will show you how to model it, and so that you can use it not only today but also in the future time. If you want to the